there's a thief living in your house. You've never caught them red-handed, because they don't steal your possessions. They steal something far more valuable. They steal your future, one quiet moment at a time. You might feel it right now. That weight, that thing you know you should be doing but aren't. It sits in the corner of your mind, whispering. It doesn't shout, it just waits. Most people spend their entire lives wrestling with this invisible force. They think it's about laziness. They think it's about time management. But it's not. It's something much deeper, something hiding in the dark room of your own mind. And until you understand what it really is and where it comes from, you'll always be its prisoner. Tonight, we aren't going to talk about to-do lists. We're going to talk about the one thing Napoleon Hill discovered that separates those who live their dreams from those who simply dream about living. Listen closely. This is where it begins. Let's sit with this for a moment, just quietly, without judgment. Because the first mistake we make when we talk about procrastination is that we judge ourselves for it. We wake up in the middle of the night and remember something we were supposed to do, and instead of understanding why we didn't do it, we simply call ourselves lazy. We add shame on top of the inaction. And shame, as you may have noticed, is a terrible fuel. It doesn't move you forward. It just makes you want to hide. So let's drop the judgment for now. Let's just observe. Why do we procrastinate? The world has a simple answer. The world tells us it's a discipline problem. It tells us we need more willpower, better time management, stricter schedules. And so we buy the beautiful planners. We set the alarms on our phones with encouraging labels. We make solemn promises to ourselves as the sun goes down, feeling that rush of nighttime motivation, convinced that tomorrow will be different. And then the sun comes up, and we are the same person, in the same body, with the same habits, and we do the same thing we did yesterday. We think the problem is the task itself. The report is too long. The phone call is too awkward. The workout is too exhausting. We tell ourselves that if we could just find an easier task, something we actually enjoyed, we would have no problem doing it. This is a comforting lie. It protects our ego. It allows us to believe that we are not the problem, the task is. But watch what happens when you replace that difficult task with something easy. Do you suddenly become a person of action? Or do you simply find new ways to fill the time? No, the real problem is much quieter than that. It's not external, it's internal. It's a state of being, a subtle fog that settles over your thoughts and muffles your intentions. It's not that you don't want to move, it's that something invisible is holding you back. Imagine, if you will, that you are standing at the edge of a wide river. The water is cold and it moves with a quiet power. On the other side, you can see the life you want, the peace, the accomplishment, the person you know you could become. You can see it clearly. It's right there. But you don't step in. You stand there testing the temperature with your toe, pulling back at the slightest chill. You tell yourself you're waiting for the right moment. You're waiting for the sun to be a little warmer on your skin. You're waiting for the current to slow down, to become more manageable. You're waiting for a bridge to magically appear, or for someone to come along with a boat and carry you across. You are waiting for conditions to be perfect, and because conditions are never perfect, you never move. The sun is always too hot or too cold. The current is always a little too strong. The bridge never appears. And so you stay on that bank, watching the water flow by, watching the seasons change, watching the years float past you like leaves on the surface. This is the hidden problem that most people never notice. It's not the river, it's not the cold, it's the quiet, unexamined belief that you are not ready. It's a deep-seated fear that if you step into that water, you might discover something you don't want to know. You might discover that you can't swim as well as you hoped. You might struggle. You might go under. You might fail, publicly and embarrassingly, with everyone watching from the shore. But here's the truth that the mind hides from you. Failure is not the thing you are most afraid of. Not really. Because failure, at least, offers closure. It offers an answer. No, what you are truly afraid of is something more subtle. You are afraid of succeeding and then having to keep going. You are afraid of the responsibility that comes with motion. As long as you haven't started, you can still dream about what might be. The possibility is pure, untainted by reality. But the moment you step into the river, You are committed. You have to keep swimming. You have to find out if you have what it takes. Most people never notice that their procrastination is actually a shield. It's a protective mechanism they developed long ago, maybe in childhood, maybe in school, when they learned that it was safer not to try than to try and be judged. As long as you don't start, you can't be criticized. As long as you don't finish, you can't be measured. As long as you stay on the bank, you are safe. You are the observer, not the participant. You can keep the dream alive without ever risking its destruction. But safety, my friend, is a prison, and the bars of that prison are made of your own hesitation. They look like protection from the outside, but from the inside, they are just walls. And the longer you stand behind them, the smaller your world becomes. The river narrows in your imagination. The opposite shore grows distant and hazy. The person you could have been becomes a stranger. You see, the mind is extraordinarily clever. It will create 1,000 reasons to wait. It will tell you that you need more information before you can decide. It will tell you that you need more money, more confidence, more support. It will convince you that tomorrow holds a secret power that today does not possess. It will whisper that the conditions will be better next week, next month, next year. But tomorrow never comes. It never has. It's always today. And today, you are standing on the same bank, watching the same water flow by, feeling the same quiet ache of a life deferred. Think about the last thing you put off, not the big thing, the life-changing thing, but just the ordinary thing. The email you didn't send, the conversation you didn't have, the small step you knew would take 10 minutes, but somehow cost you 3 days of mental energy. Was the task itself truly painful, or was it the thought of the task, the anticipation, the worry you built around it like a fortress? You suffered more in your imagination than you ever would have in the execution. The suffering of doing is brief, contained, often even satisfying once it's over. But the suffering of avoiding is chronic. It leaks into your quiet moments. It sits with you at dinner. It keeps you awake at night. It steals your peace without you even realizing it's gone. And yet, we choose the avoidance every time. We choose the quiet, nagging pain of incompletion over the brief discomfort of action. We choose the known weight of the undone over the unknown weight of the done. Why? Because the undone is familiar. It's a companion we understand. The done, the finish, the accomplished that requires us to become someone new. And becoming someone new, even if it's who we've always wanted to be, is terrifying. This is the truth that the world doesn't teach you. The world sells you planners and productivity apps and 5-minute morning rituals. It tells you that procrastination is a simple problem with a simple solution. But it's not. Procrastination is not a time management problem. It is an emotional management problem. It is a relationship problem between who you are and who you are afraid to become. And until you understand the emotion, until you sit with it, look at it, and ask it what it's really protecting you from, you will never master the moment. You will simply keep fighting yourself, day after day, year after year, wondering why the river never seems to carry you anywhere worth going. So if procrastination is an emotion, as we've begun to see, then we must ask the next question. What is the feeling? What is the engine beneath the avoidance? What is it that rises up inside you when you sit down to do the thing you've been putting off, that makes your hand feel heavy, your mind suddenly fascinated by anything else? The dust on the shelf, the notification on your phone, the sudden urgent need to organize your bookshelf? The world calls it laziness. But it's not laziness. Laziness is a word we use when we don't want to look deeper. No, what rises in that moment is something far more significant. It is a lack of clarity. Not clarity of schedule, not clarity of task, but clarity of purpose. Deep, bone-level clarity about who you are and where you are going. Napoleon Hill spent more than 20 years of his life studying the most successful people of his generation. Men like Andrew Carnegie, who started with nothing and built an empire of steel. Henry Ford, who revolutionized industry. Thomas Edison, who gave us light. These were not men who stood on the bank, testing the temperature of the water. They jumped in. They jumped in often without knowing exactly where the current would take them. They made mistakes. They failed. They kept going. Why? What did they possess that the average person seems to lack? They had what Hill called a burning desire. And I know that phrase has been used so many times in so many motivational posters and seminar speeches that it has lost its weight. It sounds like hype. It sounds like something you're supposed to feel but never quite do. So let's strip it down. Let's look at what it actually means beneath the surface of the words. A burning desire is not a wish. It is not a hope. It is not a quiet, polite, it would be nice if someday. A wish is a seed lying on top of dry soil. It has not broken open. It has not sent roots down into the darkness. It sits on the surface, exposed to the sun and the wind, and because it has no anchor, it simply dries up and blows away. You forget you ever wished for it. A burning desire is a seed that is cracked open in the dark earth. It has broken itself apart. It has sent roots down, searching for water, searching for nourishment, digging deep into the soil of your subconscious. It has committed itself to growth, even though it cannot see the sun. It trusts that the sun is there, and it pushes upward in the darkness, blindly, relentlessly, because that is the only direction it can go. When you have a burning desire, the question of should I do this disappears. There is no choice left to make. There is only necessity. The man who is drowning does not procrastinate about taking a breath. He does not stand on the bank thinking about the temperature of the water or the strength of the current. He does not make a pros and cons list. He acts. He acts because the desire to live is absolute. It is not a preference. It is not a goal, he wrote in a journal. It is the only thing. Now, here is the mental trap. The trap most people fall into, the trap that keeps them average year after year, is that they are trying to motivate themselves to do things they do not truly, deeply, burningly want to do. They are trying to force a seed to grow in dry soil. You can water it, you can give it sunlight, you can stand over it, and will it to grow with all your mental energy. But if the root is not there, if the seed is not cracked open on its own, it will never thrive. It will remain a seed. It will remain a wish. You tell yourself you need to start that business. But deep down, in the quiet place you rarely visit, you are comfortable. The paycheck arrives every 2 weeks. The routine is predictable. The risk of losing that comfort feels greater than the reward of gaining something new. So the business remains a wish. It sits on the surface of your mind, but it never sends roots down. You tell yourself you need to write that book. But deep down, you are afraid of what people will think, afraid that your words are not good enough, that your story does not matter, that you will be judged and found wanting. So the book remains a collection of notes, a file in your computer, a wish. The need is on the surface. It's what you tell yourself and others. It's the story you repeat. But the want, the deep, primal, burning want, is not in your bones. And because it is not in your bones, your mind rebels. It creates friction. It makes a task feel 10 times harder than it actually is. It turns a simple email into a mountain that requires ropes and equipment and a team of guides. It transforms a 20-minute workout into an ordeal that requires 3 days of mental preparation. Why does your mind do this? Because your subconscious knows something that your conscious mind refuses to admit. It knows that this task, this goal, this ambition is not aligned with your true self. It is not connected to what Hill called a definite major purpose. It is a stray thought, a borrowed dream, assured that was planted by someone else apparent, a partner, a culture, a voice on the internet. And your subconscious, which is wired for survival and integrity, will resist any action that does not serve your deepest truth. This is the trap. You spend your energy trying to force yourself to do things you don't actually want to do. And when you fail, you call yourself lazy. You add shame to the burden. You tighten the cycle. You make it harder to move next time. But what if the problem was never you? What if the problem was the goal itself? What if you have been trying to swim in a river that was never meant to carry you? The great achievers, the ones Hill studied, they did not force themselves to work. They could not stop working. The work was not separate from them. It was an expression of who they were. Edison did not need motivation to go to the lab. The lab was where he became himself. Carnegie did not need a productivity system to build his empire. The empire was the natural outcome of his burning desire made visible. When you lack a definite major purpose to specific, emotionally charged, deeply personal vision of who you are becoming, every action feels like a chore. You are a ship without a rudder, drifting on the ocean, and any wind that blows feels like a storm. You procrastinate because you are waiting for the wind to blow you in a direction that feels right. But without a rudder, you will just spin in circles. You will exhaust yourself with movement that goes nowhere. And here's the most painful part. The trap convinces you that you are waiting for motivation. You tell yourself that once you feel motivated, once the fire ignites, then you will act. But motivation is not the cause of action. It is the reward for action. You do not wait for the fire to be hot before you strike the match. You strike the match, and the fire comes. You take the first step, and the second step becomes possible. You write the first sentence, and the paragraph begins to form. You make the first call, and the conversation opens. The trap is believing that feeling comes first. It doesn't. Action comes first. Feeling follows. And if you wait for the feeling, you will wait forever, standing on the bank of the river, watching the water carry the years away. So we arrive at the question that has likely been forming in your mind as we've spoken. If procrastination is emotional, if it is rooted in a lack of burning desire, if the trap is trying to force yourself toward goals that are not truly yours, then what do we do? How do we find this rudder? How do we crack the seed open in the dark earth? How do we transform a wish into a burning desire that moves us without effort? This is where Napoleon Hill's teaching moves from philosophy into something you can actually use, something you can practice tonight, tomorrow morning, every day for the rest of your life. He called it the principle of auto-suggestion. Now, I know the word sounds clinical. It sounds like something from a psychology textbook, distant and academic. But stay with me, because underneath that formal name is one of the most powerful tools a human being can possess. It is the bridge between the world you see and the world you want to create. It is the mechanism by which thoughts become things. Autosuggestion is simply this: you have the power to feed your own mind. You are the gatekeeper of your thoughts. Every day, thousands of impressions, ideas, worries, and possibilities knock on the door of your awareness. And you, whether you realize it or not, are the one who decides which ones to let in, which ones to offer a chair, which ones to serve dinner to. For most people, the gate is wide open. It's not even a gate. It's a doorway with no door. Any stray thought can wander in. Any fear can make itself at home. Any doubt from the outside world, a cynical comment from a coworker, a discouraging news headline, a memory of past failure, can walk right in, sit down in the living room of your mind, and start redecorating. And you don't even notice. You think these thoughts are your own. You think the fear belongs to you. But it doesn't. It was just passing by. And you left the door open. You listened to the news, and the news plants seeds of anxiety. You listen to a friend who always sees the downside, and they plant seeds of doubt. You listen to the voice in your head that whispers, "You can't do that, you're not the type." And you assume that voice is telling the truth. You let it in. You feed it. You water it with your attention. You give it a comfortable place to live. And then you wonder why you don't have the energy to move. You wonder why the river seems so cold, why the opposite shore seems so far away. Auto-suggestion is the process of taking back control of that gate. It is the deliberate, conscious, and repeated act of feeding your mind with the thoughts that support your definite major purpose. It is choosing on purpose what grows in the garden of your consciousness. Now, I want to be careful here, because this is where people often misunderstand. This is not what the modern world calls positive thinking. It is not about pasting a smile on your face and pretending everything is fine when it's not. It is not about repeating affirmations while your life falls apart around you. That is a caricature of the truth. That is the shallow end of a very deep ocean. No, what we are talking about is programming. It is deep, intentional, consistent work. Your subconscious mind, that vast and powerful part of you that controls your heartbeat, your digestion, your instinctual responses, that part of you does not know the difference between a real experience and one you vividly imagine. It takes its orders from the thoughts you think most often. It believes what you tell it, over and over, with feeling and repetition. If you constantly think, I am overwhelmed, I have too much to do, I'll never get it all done, I'm just not a disciplined person, your subconscious accepts this as a command. It doesn't judge the command. It doesn't ask if it's good for you. It simply obeys. It will create feelings of fatigue, confusion, and paralysis to match the thought. It will scan your environment for evidence that you are, in fact, overwhelmed. It will find that evidence. It will make you feel tired before you've even begun. You will feel overwhelmed because you have commanded yourself to feel that way. You have programmed the machine for failure. But here is the extraordinary news. The machine does not discriminate. It obeys whatever command you give it most consistently. If you take 10 minutes every night before you sleep, when the world is quiet and your mind is soft and receptive, if you close your eyes in that sacred space and you visualize yourself moving with ease, you begin to reprogram the machine. You see yourself sitting at the desk, calmly, without resistance. You feel your fingers on the keyboard. You hear the quiet click of the keys. You experience the satisfaction of the words forming, the task progressing. You see yourself finishing, and you feel the relief, the quiet pride, the release of the weight you've been carrying. You do this not once, not as a wish, but as a practice. Night after night, you feed this image to your subconscious. You water it with your attention, and slowly, imperceptibly at first, something shifts. Your subconscious accepts this as a command too. It believes the image you are feeding it. It begins to look for ways to make that feeling a reality. It whispers to you in the morning while you're making coffee. It's not that hard. Just sit down. Just start. It creates a small opening of energy where before there was only resistance. The friction lessens. The mountain becomes a molehill. The task that once required 3 days of mental preparation now requires only the decision to begin. Most people wait for inspiration to strike like lightning from a clear sky. They wait for the muse to visit, for the mood to hit, for the stars to align. They wait, and the lightning never comes. But the wise person, the one who understands this principle, builds a fire in the hearth every single night. They tend to it. They feed it with images, with feelings, with quiet repetition. They don't wait for the fire. They create the conditions for it to burn. And when the morning comes, the fire is already there, waiting for them, warm and patient. This is how you kill procrastination at the root, not by fighting the symptom of avoidance with more willpower and stricter schedules. That is like trying to put out a fire by blowing on the flames. No, you go deeper. You change the soil of your mind so that action is the only thing that can grow. You program yourself for motion. You become, through this quiet, nightly practice, the kind of person who simply does what needs to be done, not because you are forcing yourself, but because the command has been given and the machine is finally obeying. This is the principle that changes everything. It is the secret the great ones have always known. They did not have more willpower than you. They simply had a different relationship with their own mind. They learned to be the gatekeeper. And starting tonight, so can you. When you begin to understand this principle of autosuggestion, when you start to grasp that you are the gatekeeper of your own mind, something shifts in how you see the world. You look at the people you admire, the ones who seem to move through life with a quiet confidence, the ones who get things done while others are still making plans, and you realize something profound. They are not superhuman. They do not possess some genetic gift that was denied to you. They do not have more hours in the day, more willpower in their bones, or more discipline in their blood. They simply have a different relationship with their own mind. They have learned to think in a way that the average person has not. Let me paint you a picture of how the average mind operates. The average person lives in a state of reaction. Life happens to them. The phone rings and they answer it, whether they wanted to be interrupted or not. An email arrives and they stop what they were doing to reply. A problem appears and they drop everything to react to it. Their day is not a path they have chosen. It is a series of responses to external stimuli, one after another. like a leaf being blown from place to place by whichever wind happens to be blowing. They are busy, yes. They are exhausted, certainly, but they are not moving toward anything. They are simply moving. This is the default setting of the human mind. It requires no effort. It requires no thought. It simply reacts. And reaction, my friend, is the enemy of creation. Now, look at the great achiever. Look at the person who seems to bend the world toward their vision. They live in a state of creation. They have an internal compass that points true north, regardless of the weather. Before the phone rings, they have already decided what they are going to build today. Before the email arrives, they have already given orders to their mind about what matters and what does not. They do not ask the world what it wants from them. They tell the world what they are here to give. Thomas Edison is a name we all know, but let's sit with his example for a moment because it reveals something essential about this different way of thinking. Edison did not fail 10,000 times because he was a masochist who loved pain. He did not wake up each morning thinking, I hope today brings another failure so I can prove how tough I am. No. He failed 10,000 times because his definite purpose was so clear, so burning, so absolute, that a failure was not a failure at all. It was simply data. It was information. It was a step forward, a piece to the puzzle, a necessary part of the path. The average person would have stopped at attempt number 5. They would have concluded the task was impossible, that the goal was unreasonable, that they were not the right person for the job. They would have let the external evidence, the lack of success, dictate their internal state. They would have reacted to the world. Edison did something different. He kept going because his internal command was stronger than the external evidence. He had programmed his mind through years of focused thought and auto-suggestion to see the world through the lens of his purpose. A failure was not a reason to stop. It was a reason to adjust. It was not a verdict. It was a lesson. This is the shift. This is the awakening that separates the achievers from the dreamers. The great achiever thinks in terms of decisions, not conditions. They do not ask, do I feel like doing this today? They ask, is this in alignment with my purpose? And because the answer is already known, the question of feeling becomes irrelevant. Think about that for a moment. The question, do I feel like it, is the death of progress. Feelings change. They shift with the weather, with the hour, with the quality of your sleep, with the last thing someone said to you. Feelings are unreliable messengers. They come and go like clouds across the sky. If your action depends on your feelings, you will spend most of your life waiting for a clear sky that never arrives. But when you make a decision, a real decision, the kind that cuts deep, it changes everything. A decision is a sword that severs the rope of hesitation. When you truly decide to do something, the debate is over. There is no more discussion with yourself. There is no more bargaining at 2 a.m. when the doubts creep in. There is no more waking up and wondering if today is the day. The decision has been made. The path has been chosen. The only question that remains is, what is the next step? Most people never make a true decision. They make a preference. They say, I prefer to get in shape. But they leave the back door open. They leave the option of quitting available, just in case. They keep a little escape route in the back of their mind, a path back to the shore just in case the water gets cold. And when the first moment of discomfort comes, when the workout is hard, when the business hits a rough patch, when the writing doesn't flow, they slip out that back door. They tell themselves they'll try again later, when conditions are better. A true decision burns the boats. There is an old story, perhaps you've heard it, about a commander who landed his soldiers on the shore of an enemy land. When the boats were unloaded, he gave the order to burn them. The soldiers watched their only way home go up in flames. They turned to their commander, confused and afraid. And he said to them, now you know that the only way home is through victory. We win or we die. This is the state of mind Napoleon Hill observed in the men who built empires. They had reached a point of no return. They had committed so deeply to their vision that turning back was more painful than moving forward through the fire. The fear of staying where they was greater than the fear of where they were going. Think about your own life. Think about the thing you've been putting off. Is your vision powerful enough that failure hurts less than quitting? Is your purpose clear enough that the pain of not doing it is greater than the pain of doing it? If not, the vision is not yet clear enough. The purpose is not yet burning. Go back to the quiet room. Go back to the nightly practice of autosuggestion. Go back to the gatekeeping work. Clarify the picture. Make it burn. Feed it with your attention until it is the biggest thing in your mind. Because when the vision is big enough, the obstacles become small. When the purpose is clear enough, procrastination has nowhere to hide. The great achievers think differently because they have to. Their vision leaves them no choice. And until you have a vision that leaves you no choice, you will remain a leaf in the wind, blown from distraction to distraction, always busy, never arriving. But here is the hope. The vision is not something you find. It is something you build. It is something you feed. It is something you decide. And that decision, that burning of the boats, is available to you right now, in this very moment. You don't need to wait for inspiration. You don't need to wait for the feeling. You can decide, and in that decision, everything changes. And so we arrive here together in the quiet of this moment. The hour is late, or perhaps it is early. The world outside is doing what the world always does, rushing, worrying, chasing, hiding. But here, in this space, there is only you and the sound of these words. There is only the slow rhythm of your own breath and the thoughts that have been stirring as we've walked through these principles together. I want you to sit with a simple truth now, a truth so obvious that most people spend their entire lives overlooking it, a truth that, once seen, changes everything. You have been waiting. You have been waiting for the right time. You have been waiting for the fear to subside. You have been waiting for confidence to arrive, for motivation to strike, for the conditions to become perfect. You have been standing on the bank of the river, testing the temperature with your toe, telling yourself that soon, very soon, you will step in and swim toward the life you want. But here is the awakening. Here is the truth that changes everything. There is no bank. There is no shore. You are already in the river. You have always been in the river. The current of time does not stop for anyone. It does not pause while you gather your courage. It does not slow down while you wait for better conditions. It moves, always moves, carrying you forward whether you choose to swim or not. Every breath you take is a movement downstream. Every sunrise that passes while you wait is a mile you have traveled without choosing the direction. You are not standing on the bank watching the water flow by. You are in the water. You have always been in the water. The only choice you have, the only real choice you have ever had, is whether you will navigate or simply drift. Procrastination is not stopping the clock. It is not pausing your life while you prepare to live. It is drifting. It is allowing the current to take you wherever it pleases, hoping that it happens to be somewhere good. And drifting, as you may have noticed, never takes you where you intend it to go. It takes you downstream, always downstream, away from the life you dreamed of, toward the life of quiet resignation that so many people accept as their fate. The task in front of you, the thing you have been avoiding, the conversation you haven't had, the step you haven't taken, it is not your enemy. I want you to hear that clearly. It is not the enemy. It is not a punishment. It is not evidence of your inadequacy. The task is the boat. It is the oar. It is the only thing in this entire world that gives you control over the current. When you sit down to do the thing you have been avoiding, you are not just checking a box. You are not just completing an item on a list. You are doing something far more profound. You are telling the universe, and more importantly, you are telling yourself, I am the author of my life. I am not a passenger. I am not a leaf. I am not driftwood. I am the one who decides where this current takes me. That first step, the one you have been dreading, the one that has been living in the corner of your mind, whispering to you in the quiet hours. It is always small. It is always imperfect. It is never the perfect moment. The perfect moment does not exist. It never has. It never will. But it is the only moment that matters. Napoleon Hill wrote about a practice that he found in the lives of many great achievers. He called it the invisible guide. These men would imagine a council of great minds, individuals they admired, thinkers like Emerson and Paine, builders like Carnegie and Edison sitting with them as they made decisions. They would ask themselves, what would they do in this situation? They would seek counsel from these imagined guides, and in doing so, they would access a higher part of themselves. It is a powerful exercise, but tonight, in this quiet moment, I want to offer you a different guide. I want you to imagine someone closer to you, someone who knows you better than any historical figure ever could. I want you to imagine the person you will be 5 years from today, not the person you are now, carrying the weight of all the things you haven't done, not the person who wakes up with the familiar ache of incompletion. No, I want you to imagine the person you will become if you start, if you take the step, if you answer the call. See them clearly. Look at their face. Notice the peace in their eyes. Notice the quiet confidence in the way they hold themselves. They are not anxious. They are not overwhelmed. They are not waiting for anything. They are simply present, fully alive, because they have built the habit of showing up. Day after day, they showed up. Step after step, they moved forward. And now they stand before you, not as a stranger, but as the most authentic version of yourself. Look at them. Really see them. Now listen. They are speaking to you. They are leaning forward, and they are saying one thing, just one thing, but it is the only thing you need to hear. Start. That's all. There is no complicated philosophy beyond this. There is no secret technique, no hidden formula, no ancient wisdom that hasn't already been shared. The wisdom of the ages, the secrets of the millionaires, the mindsets of the masters, they all reduce down to this one simple, terrifying, and liberating truth. Start. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be started. It doesn't have to be the whole journey. It just has to be the first step. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It just has to be real. Right now, in this quiet moment, the procrastination has no power. The fear has no voice. The doubts are silent. There's only you sitting here, breathing, aware that you are the one holding the oar. You are the one in the river. You are the one who decides. You don't have to move the mountain today. You just have to pick up one stone, one small stone, one email, one sentence, one conversation, one step. And when you do, something shifts. The fog that has been hanging over your mind begins to lift. The current that seems so threatening begins to feel like a friend. The opposite shore, which looks so far away, suddenly seems closer than you ever imagined. You realize in that moment that you were never trapped. You were never stuck. You were never a prisoner of your own nature. You were just waiting, waiting for permission, waiting for someone to tell you that it was okay to begin. So let me be the one to tell you. Permission granted. The time is not coming. The time is now. The moment is not approaching. The moment is here. The person you are meant to become is not waiting in some distant future. They are waiting for you in the next 5 minutes, in the next decision, in the next step. Take a breath. Feel the weight of this moment. And then when you are ready, do the smallest thing. Just one thing. Send the email. Write the sentence. Make the call. Take the step. The river is waiting. But you are not on the bank. You never were. You are in the water, and the oar is in your hand. Now swim.